Scanning for audio.
Welcome once again to a Tin Dog podcast. This time talking about The Pirate Planet by James Goss. Yes, an argument can be made to say that it's by, well, Douglas Adams, and I suppose it is. But James Goss was the guy who had to sat down and, write an entire novelisation. Say, for example, Terrance Dicks was brought in to write the novelisation in the old Target days of something written by a completely different author. Because, as Terrance said, some scriptwriters who are marvellous scriptwriters just aren't experts at prose. There are some people who straddle the many mediums of these things, and that's great. Now, everyone knows a bit of a fan of James Goss's work anyway. The Torchwood stuff of late has been superb, but anyone listening to this podcast already knows this. And anyone listening to the Torchwood stuff, well, they've just had a treat. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about The Pirate Planet, the brand new hardback book by James Goss, which is an adaptation of lots of scripts and lots of variants of The Pirate Planet. Original drafts, concepts that we never saw on screen. It's not quite the story you had in mind. The most obvious of which is the design. In a book you can have any design you want, almost more than you can on audio. You expect large sections of description, and you will get them. But obviously, there's always the economy of language that James Goss always employs. This is a spectacularly good book. Yes, I know, like me, you were gutted when Douglas died. I mean, seriously, I have a photograph of me meeting Douglas Adams, and I was so terribly excited by the event that I can't remember any of it. I've got books signed, I've got this CD selection of The Hitch Hiker's Guide to the Galaxy signed in a silver Sharpie. Well, a silver marker pen, they weren't Sharpies then. And I was so incredibly excited by someone who'd had such a massive influence on my life that the memory is possibly just missing. That's when the storyline involving Clara and the Doctor having his memory wiped, I just had nothing but sympathy for him. But enough of my minor psychological issues. What we're actually talking about is the marvellous thing that is City of Death. We've all seen it countless times, so why bother to buy the book? Well, let's face it, it's as close as you're going to get to buying a Douglas Adams novel this year. James has mined, researched, and gone through in so much depth this particularly fantastic story. Now, it does strike you as odd that it's a piece of the key to time, and as such would be part of a 6-book series, but let's not go down that road. It is, of course, a standalone Douglas Adams story, with so many things that pop up in The Hitch Hiker's Guide to the Galaxy, because to most people Doctor Who was as disposable as anything else, and ideas can appear on here just like they appear on, say, Mock the Week, and then on the Now show on Radio 4. The same jokes being used in slightly different medium, and only the pedantic amongst us would spot them. Well, we're all pedantic here, aren't we? We're all going to spot them. But James knows this. And it's fine. There are tremendous moments in this book. But it is in the characterisation and the use of language that this really shines. It's not just a straightforward adaptation. It's arguably better. Let's face it, the effects are always going to be fantastic. Tiny things like the model of the bridge itself. On TV, it's a very nice model, but you do get that whole Monty Python, it's only a model thing going on. But in Douglas's original idea, it was a space liner that had crashed into a mountain, not the elegant bits of, EMA catalogue page 57 that we get on the screen. No, it was something more violent. Something with literally more impact. So, when you read it and you hear those descriptions in your own head, you can just go for it because it's marvellous. I'm going to do a small reading from it, and I apologise for my incredible reading voice, unless you like that sort of thing. And let's face it, if you've been hanging around with the TDP long enough, you either like my voice or you don't. And after just short of 650 episodes, I'm sure you can handle how I talk. No, this is much more important. This is a reading to give you a flavour of what it's like, because it's a stunning book. Incredibly well written, incredibly well researched, and it lets you experience the story that you think you know in a way that will make you smile. So here's the reading, and I'll let you make up your own mind. So until next time, when we're probably talking about Doctor Who, be seeing you.
This is K9. You are listening to Tin Dog Podcast. Please do not switch off.
Chapter 1. The Sky with Diamonds. It rained diamonds that day, but no one cared. The people of Zanuck simply held up their umbrellas, made of gold, and got on with their lives, which for the most part involved shuffling through the streets already clogged with emeralds and rubies. No one looked up. No one wanted to see the rain of precious stones, far less get hit in the eye by one. But that wasn't the real reason. If you lived in Zanuck's capital city and you looked up, you couldn't help but see the mountain, and no one wanted to see the mountain. So their gold leaf umbrellas dinted with diamonds, the people of Zanuck went about their business, looking dead ahead. Crowning the mountain was the Citadel. It was a peculiar building, a haphazard mingling of ancient stone and burnt metal that looked pretty much as though a starliner had fallen into a mountain, which, curiously enough, was exactly what had once happened. The jutting heart of the Citadel was a room called the Bridge. Mr. Fibuli was wanted on the bridge, but Mr. Fibuli wasn't coming out. Not today. Today Mr. Fibuli was crouched in a cupboard, wiping his glasses with a dirty cloth. It was only making things worse. Every event in Mr. Fibuli's life made things worse. At his feet lay a vast stack of paperwork. He had stayed up late the night before, clearing all of his paperwork away until his desk was empty. He had come in this morning, before anyone else, to find his desk full again. Crammed with documents, memos, counter-memos, circulars, and even junk mail, assuring him that a long-lost friend on a distant planet had shares in a diamond mine. Mr. Fibuli had found the last letter so absurd he had almost laughed. He stood there, staring at it, urging the sides of his mouth to move. They did not move, up or down. He swept away his thoughts about the vast pile of paperwork to concentrate on the piece of junk mail. It was so repellently ironic. He just couldn't figure out how it had got there. Just for a moment he wondered if the captain himself had placed it there, but no, he couldn't have. He finally started sifting through the rest of the new day's relentless paperwork, reports from the automated mines, diagnostics from the engines, and a set of standard termination fee orders for the latest victims of that thing. Mr. Fibuli signed those first. That thing was getting hungrier. Mr. Fibuli then turned his attention to the last order on his desk. It was a summary of ancillary personnel displacements caused by manoeuvres. He opened it, grimaced at the total, and shut it hastily. This time someone had gone too far. He wasn't sure what made him go and crawl into the cupboard. It may have been the staggering total contained within the folder. It may have been that someone came in, smirked at him, and dropped a dozen more folders on his desk. He didn't know for sure, but Mr. Fibuli went and hid in the cupboard anyway. It didn't make Mr. Fibuli feel any better for a moment. He curled up there and felt almost safe, and then, to his horror, someone pushed more folders under the door. They knew he was here. They'd come and fetch him eventually, when the captain had grown tired of calling for him. Aghast, Mr. Fibuli watched the folders slide under the door one by one, kicking at them with his heels. Why was there so much paperwork? After all, they were supposed to be pirates. That was the Doctor Who Tin Dog Podcast, available on iTunes, YouTube, Twitter, RSS, Vimeo, and across the internet. Doctor Who and its associated properties are all copyright and trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. Why not become a supporter by visiting patreon.com/tindog. Contact the show on tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk.
The Tin Dog Podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance.